suggest three. And the first I would suggest is to discover again the boundary mark of gratitude. I feel sometimes that we have become a people who take things for granted rather than accept things with gratitude. A family once sat down in a restaurant. For most of the family, it was a new and exciting and expensive experience. The children were silenced by the occasion. They were filled with awe as they looked round at the decor of the restaurant, the soft lights, the efficiency of the waiters, the elaborate menu. Finally, selections were made, and the first course was served. And then Dad suggested that they should say grace. And then the youngest boy in the family piped up with a loud voice that was heard right across the restaurant. "We don't say grace this time, Dad," he said. "We paid for this lot." Now, I'm not sure about your perspective in life, but I have no hesitation in giving thanks to Almighty God for the amazing heritage that we have in this land of Aotearoa, New Zealand. Some years ago, while I was in Taranaki, I was invited to do what I'm doing today, to speak at the church service of the 75th Jubilee of a small country school in mid-Taranaki. I shared in the rest of the celebrations, and I recall vividly the experience of sitting in the audience and listening to the speeches and hearing something of the great progress that had taken place in that community. And yet, as a backdrop to that occasion, I looked across the schoolyard and I saw the little Methodist church across the road. It was no longer open. The paint was peeling. The windows were broken. The lawns were overgrown. The hedges had never been tended in years. And I thought, what sort of progress is this? That here within this moment when we sit and talk about the past and the future, that we neglect our spirituality. Our history has been marked by this spirit of gratitude. And today this is our centennial Thanksgiving service. And we recognise the generosity of God. Let's affirm today, we have not paid for this lot. We are not here to remember what we have achieved. I can never come to an occasion like this without recalling a visit 30 years ago to a small town in the Virginia mountains. It was a cold and frosty autumn morning. The streets were carpeted with gold and red and brown. We walked to the church, and that morning everyone in the community seemed to be walking to church. The old rustic building, the small tower and shingle roof, pews darkened with the years were crammed and overcrowded. You see, it was Thanksgiving Day, and those people in that community came to thank God for their freedom, for the privileges they enjoyed, for the resources that were theirs, and for their heritage, which was priceless. And surely this is what we are about today. This is what is happening in this moment. It's Thanksgiving Day at Linton. But let's discover the boundary mark of hope. As I read through the history and I read even between the lines, I could see that the remarkable feature of the early history of this district was the spirit of the early pioneers. Appalling conditions. They were difficult times. There is an amusing comment I felt about the school. About 2 or 3 years after the school opened, it went through a difficult time with falling rolls. Apparently most of the landowners in the district were bachelors. They were happy to subscribe to the prize fund, but they were no help at all in maintaining the school roll. And the teacher and the principal and the committee were very disturbed about this particular time. But there's an interesting comment about the millions of mosquitoes. One writer says they were man-eating mosquitoes, and the precautions that the people had to take in surviving this onslaught from this little insect. But as you read through the story, there is a remarkable comment about the hopefulness of people. There was a spirit of optimism. People were hopeful about their days and about their future. And yet I'm aware that our society today is marked by great pessimism. Restructuring, redundancy, massive unemployment. Last year, the conference of the College of Community Medicine and Public Health, this comment was made. 15 to 25-year-olds make up 18.5% of our population in New Zealand. And yet this age group accounts for half of the abortions, a third of the suicides, 60% of the unemployment, 60% of violent offending, and 56% of new admissions for drug treatment. I would say, at my stage in life looking back, that period of life, 15 to 25, is surely the most exciting period of life. The most exciting time in making decisions, in looking to the future and making commitments. And yet that survey makes a tragic comment on our life today. I suggest to you we desperately need to rediscover the boundary mark of hope. G.K. Chesterton once said, "Man has not only lost his way, he has lost his address." Harry Emerson Fosdick was a great preacher in New York City in the 30s and 40s. And in 1941, on Easter Sunday, and I remind you that this week is Holy Week, 1941 on Easter Sunday, Fosdick stood in his pulpit and said, "It's a great year for Easter." It wasn't a good year for anything. Hitler was marching through Europe. England was reeling under the massive blows of Nazi power. Millions were in danger of their lives, and the sounds of war threatened our own country. As a boy, I still vividly recall the newspaper being opened in the evening after the evening meal, and the names of those who were killed in action being read. And that has left an indelible impression upon my mind. It wasn't a good year for Easter at all. Or was it? I believe that Foster was right. Whether you believe it or not, it's not the time to wring our hands in despair. The message of Easter is a message of hope, a message of confidence, a message of optimism. You see, the Christian faith states that the forgiveness of Jesus is still the greatest therapy in the world. The values of the Word of God, still the only comprehensive solution to the meaninglessness of our society. Let's discover again the boundary mark of hope. But finally, let's discover the boundary mark of dedication. It's not very fashionable today to talk about commitment and dedication, but I sense that it's essential. It was certainly the spirit which marked the beginnings of this community. It was the spirit with which they broke in the land and built their homes and maintained their family life. It was the spirit that built this school and saw from this school a progression of people who would influence this country. It was the spirit that has built New Zealand, a spirit of commitment and dedication. I'll never forget an experience that I had in religious instruction one day. I was teaching a class of Standard 3 girls and boys. Michael was 9 years old. I stopped by his desk near the end of the class. The children were quietly working on the task that I had set them. But I looked at the cover of Michael's book, and on the cover there was the picture of a beautiful motorbike. And I said to him, "Michael, you like motorbikes?" "Yes, sir," Michael responded. And out of his desk came other books, drawings, models, badges, all motorbikes. And then Michael said the strangest thing. You see, Mr. Brogden, I have a passion for wheels. Now that explained Michael. And I say to you that that explains our forebears. You see, people had a passion. They felt strongly about things. They had a spirit of commitment and dedication. And when people feel passion and commitment and dedication, things happen. And we are here to celebrate this weekend the things that have happened at the hands of passionate people. If you want some good reading, go to the library and pick up the autobiography of Yehudi Menuhin, the great violinist. It's a remarkable story, and you know that he was a remarkable man. All the details of his music, his career, the acclaim of the world, and also the basic principles of his life, the love and the loyalty, the integrity and the discipline, all growing out of his Jewish faith. But the interesting thing is the book is entitled Unfinished Journey. Now let that be written over these celebrations. Unfinished journey. We haven't arrived, we're just beginning. And that is to be the focus of the future as we, as a group of people, young and old, commit ourselves to the next 100 years. And let us commit ourselves to the maintaining of boundary marks, the boundary mark of gratitude and hope and dedication. And yet, if today we are here with some regrets about the past, and whether they be personal or communal, let me close with this statement. You can't turn back the clock, but you can wind it up again.
of us, this has been a weekend of memories and renewal of old friendships, of familiar, half-remembered faces that we have encountered with surprise and delight. But it is also an opportunity to step aside and to realise how much we owe to the past, the debts of gratitude that perhaps we had forgotten. Yes, we are today what our parents and grandparents have made us. Our district is today what the first settlers and their families made it. And now it rests with us. What Linton will be tomorrow, and our children and grandchildren in the future, will depend on what we in our turn are today. The values that we espouse, the place that we give to God in our own personal lives, our family life, the life of our community. The character that we give to this area. It is all significant. Nothing that we do or say or are is lost. And that is why it is also important on this day to remember with deep gratitude those who from this district served or died in 2 world wars. So now I call on Murray May to conduct an Anzac commemoration.
Ladies and gentlemen, and children, and now I am especially referring to children and the younger ones. I want them to take full attention, if possible, on what I am going to say. Now I have the pride to be able to stand in front of you today and give honour and tribute to the ex-servicemen and women of Linton, the district, and all possible ex-servicemen and people throughout New Zealand, but we are referring today mostly to this Linton and district. Now, over this weekend, you have been celebrating 100 years of history, of life. Now, what is life? Life is history. Everything you do in life becomes history. Your children are educated. Everything that they do in this sort of all revolves around virtually what has happened. Now, I would like to take you back in history 75 years ago, 1914. In 1914, we had a disastrous world war, the First World War. The name Anzac originated from that war. Anzac is, in short, Australian and New Zealand Army Corps. Now, during that war, the British felt that they wanted to gain control of the Dardanelles. The Dardanelles is the waterway to the Black Sea. And it was held by the Turks. And the Turks were great and vicious fighters. But they had control of the Dardanelles. The British thought they would put a force in and try and take this coast. And they put in the Australians and New Zealand at a place called Jubilee. Unfortunately, this was a disaster. They could not gain their objectives, and after 7 long months of death, destruction, it had to be evacuated. Something virtually almost done for nothing. And that is actually how you got your name of Anzac, with these Australians and the New Zealanders fighting there together at Jubilee. They fought many times after that together, so don't forget that. Now, 21 years after the First World War finished, the second started, bigger and far more devastating than the first. Thousands of ships were sunk, whole cities blackened. 55 million people were killed, and over 3 million people missing. In this war, Pākehā and Maori fought side by side. It is now 44 years since that last major conflict. The sons of Linton and district responded fully to the call of duty. And we here today feel justly proud of them. Now I might say to you people that during the war, and I went through quite a bit of it, I don't think we ever thought that we would lose it. I don't think that ever entered our mind. Our morale was high always. Our confidence was always high. I don't think we ever thought that we would lose. And I think that would come, a lot of that would come from the enormous help that we got from our own country. What you people put in to help to look after things like this. So our confidence and our morale was always very high. And we must thank you people, as ex-servicemen and women, what you did in helping us. Now, you will say, what is the call of duty? It's to retain the freedom of your country as a nation, the survival of its people and their way of life. Without freedom, life has no meaning. Now, I would like now to call on Mr. Ron Hook, who will call the roll of honour for the First World War, and I will follow with the second. Mr. Ron Hook.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hope I can do it now. The roll of honour as it stands, 1940, 1980, is P8 before your death. E left foot, your death. Foster, A.D. Brown, W. Captain, C. Mahone, A. Patson, C. N. Moody, C. Williams, C. Holland, A. Ken Beckett, A. J. Ricks, killed in action. C. Carroll, killed in action. C. Annie, A. A.V. Brown, young at least, killed in action. C. F. Young, A. Annie, killed in action. C. Mansfield, A. Annie, B. T. Mansfield, one right at least. L. Stapleton, I. D. Waghorn, D. H. Curran, H. Henry, S. H. Brown, R. J. Root, C. Moore, J. Carter Advana, J. F. Jeffs, F. J. Batchelor, H. Hodgson, A. J. S. Goot, A. O. P, A. C. Southern, F. Waghorn, P. Dryden, Ed Mansfield, M. Anderson, Carter Stickles, C. McCready, and C. Mullins. Thank you, ladies.
Roll of Honour for 1939-45. M.K. Wilson, R. Smith, J.G. Lush, J. Christensen, R.W. Bell, J.S. Woods, D.G. Woods, G.E. Smith, R.J. Carr, M.H. Craw, J.H. Lash, R.H. Peters killed in action, A.L. James, F.H. Algie killed in action, J.B. Carmine, L.J. Crowe, L.S. Wilson, O.L. Batchelor, G.G. Greer, H.J. McGurkin, J. Woods, R.M. Batchelor, W.H. Rice, S.L. Collis, F.L. Gretton, R.H. Algie, N.C. James, B.C. Burton, D.T. Lynch, R.R. Herbert, P.J. Sheridan, W.G. Sheridan, T.R. Green,